your party enable Peter Murrell's crimes by shielding him from scrutiny?
No.
How can you be sure of that?
Because what the police statement demonstrates is that Peter Murrell went to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks, and the police investigation took the best part of 5 years to explore all of the details and which involve false accounting and all sorts of other practices.
But some people in your party were raising questions and were not allowed to pursue them.
No, I'm going to answer one question at a time. That's going to be the rules for this discussion, okay? So the police statement is crystal clear. The lengths to which Peter Murrell went to commit criminality and to avoid the scrutiny of the arrangements we had in place as a party. And that is criminal conduct which it is right for a police investigation to identify.
I don't dispute any of that. What I'm asking, and what we've all been repeatedly asking, is why, when people in your party raise questions about the finances, they were shut down.
I think the answer lies in the police statement, where the police said that there was an extremely complex set of arrangements put in place to avoid scrutiny, and which involved false accounting and other practices. And that is why you have to have a police investigation, why a police investigation was required to get to the bottom of this particular issue. And that's exactly what's happened. And the course of justice is proceeding on that question. A guilty plea was offered on Monday, and the issue, the severity of the issue is recognised by that process.
John, surely the severity of the issue means you should have a parliamentary investigation. What have you got to fear from a parliamentary investigation if you're rejecting it?
We've just had a police investigation of extraordinary detail and length to get to a criminal conviction, and we know from that investigation that there were extreme lengths gone to evade scrutiny, false accounting, all sorts of other practices. Now, at the very heart of the nature of embezzlement is behaving in a fashion to avoid scrutiny, to make sure that you cover your tracks and all the rest of it. That's what the police statement all goes into, and that has been thoroughly and forensically considered by the police, and that gives us the answers that we need on this issue.
John, at the very heart of democracy is transparency. That's why you need a parliamentary investigation.
We've just had a police investigation, which is the most transparent you can get on the planet.
John, have you got to the bottom of why Peter Murrell lent the party £107,000 in June 2021? Because we've never had an explanation of this, and whether it was linked to the purchase of the motorhome 4 months earlier.
I'm not going to go into specific points of that nature, because obviously that relates to some of the outstanding issues which I covered on Monday in relation to the outstanding loan that exists between Peter Murrell and the Scottish National Party, which of course is relevant to the remaining proceedings in the court action.
Will the SNP hold its own internal investigation into its finances?
Well, the SNP has undertaken a governance review which has been the subject of democratic consideration within the party under my leadership. And we now have in place all of the arrangements in relation to the scrutiny of the party's finances to make sure we give assurance to members of the public who are donating to the party about the use of those resources, and I'm very confident in those arrangements.
First Minister, how can you be certain
Well,
there's
there's lots of elements of our governance that have been the subject of change in relation to the scrutiny by the National Executive Committee around about all of these provisions about how we undertake our internal controls within the party, the type of things that are necessary to have good and effective governance in place.
How you approach people who speak out and raise alarms?
Well, we've gone through all of these issues as well.
First Minister,
Are you worried about the current governance of your party?
I'm absolutely satisfied with the current governance of the party.
First Minister, how can you be certain that no taxpayer money was embezzled by Peter Murrell, given the fact that he falsified receipts and invoices, and that was only caught by police?
Well, I'm satisfied that we've gone through all of the accounting processes that are required to secure that money, which is validated by external bodies.
But he could have falsified those audits.
Well, but I'm satisfied that has not been the case.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, First Minister, just really quickly.
Oh, it's the BBC again.
Hello.
My goodness.
Just really quickly. When Nicola Sturgeon gave those specific categorical assurances, as did other senior figures in the party, that nothing was awry with finances, What checks did she and others carry out before she and others made those statements?
Well, I don't know all of the conversations that took place, but at the heart of this case, James, is a very simple point. There was a betrayal of trust.
So she just asked her husband?
There was a betrayal of trust, and that's at the heart of this case, and that's why it is so reprehensible.
John, can I just ask, £80,000 appeared on the SNP accounts under motor vehicles in 2022. Is it your understanding that does relate to the motorhome? And if so, shouldn't you at that point, shouldn't that have raised alarm bells about what this was exactly?
As I've explained, I didn't hold office in the SNP between 2004 and 2024, so I had no locus in scrutinising these issues. I have locus now as part of the
Yeah, but 80 grand appears under motor vehicles. Doesn't that, anybody ask any questions about what's this?
Well,
it's a public document.
I'm not involved in the internal machinery of the SNP at that particular time. Those are for those exercising that responsibility.
But you're talking about people hiding accounts and hiding numbers. Okay. It's there in plain sight.
Does that not bolster the case for an inquiry? You're saying now you don't know what went on back then.
Because I'm simply saying to you that there is, we've had a police investigation that has proven to the standard of proof required to have a guilty plea in the court of session, the highest court in the land, that there has been embezzlement of party funds and there has been a betrayal of trust, as Lord Young said in the court on Monday. And that gives us our answer to what has happened here. Because and the person responsible for that is Peter Murrell. Peter Murrell alone. Okay, thank you all very much.
This week, Peter Murrell, the former CEO of the SNP, pled guilty to embezzling over £400,000 of supporters' hard-earned cash. He will have to answer for his crimes, and that will be a matter for the courts. But questions remain about the deeper culture that allowed him to commit and think he could get away with his crimes. A culture that's been a hallmark of not just how the SNP run their party, but also how they govern the country. A culture of secrecy and cover-up, where the public are not told the truth, dissenters are vilified and careers destroyed, where protecting the party and the people at the top is more important than the country. A sick and twisted belief that the cause is bigger than anything. So will John Swinney apologise to all those that have been the victims of this dangerous culture?
First Minister.
Sir, as I've said in answer to the urgent question that I responded to on Tuesday and in my public remarks on Monday, that I am appalled at the conduct of Peter Murrell. And as the police statement said on Monday, this was a lengthy and extremely complex case due to the scale of criminality over a 12-year period and the lengths Peter Murrell went to try and cover his tracks. So there is a terrible example here of behaviour and a breach of trust in public office, which I unreservedly condemn, and I have made that abundantly clear. And the members of my party who have lost out as a consequence of seeing their donations and contributions used for the purposes for which they are intended, and I'm one of those people because I'm a contributor to the SNP, as are all my colleagues, are people who have lived with the consequences of this totally unacceptable actions. Now, in relation to... these issues have been addressed by a lengthy police investigation and Peter Murrell is now facing the consequences of those actions. As for the remainder of Mr Sarwar's comments, can I simply say this? Mr Sarwar peddled all this for the last 5 years, unreservedly, aided by his deputy sitting beside him. And the people of Scotland made their verdict on the 7th of May, and they returned it. And they returned 58 SNP MSPs to this Parliament, and the Labour Party were reduced in their number. I think Mr Sarwar should change his script, because his script is not working.
Anas Sarwar. Presiding Officer, that arrogant disposition from John Swinney is what's destroyed so many people's lives in his own political party. Because John Swinney has been at the heart of the SNP for 30 years. This is a culture he helped build, enable and defend. So I say to the SNP benches, many of your colleagues and supporters were victims of this culture. and many you now sit with were part of it or benefited from that culture. So yes, Peter Murrell is responsible for his crimes, but secrecy and cover-up go far beyond one individual or one case. At its heart is an SNP culture where secrecy became normal, dissent dangerous, and people learnt that speaking out carried a heavy price, all while those at the top of the SNP machine operated without scrutiny. Yesterday we called for a parliamentary inquiry, as this is now a matter of public trust and integrity in office. John Swinney now says he believes in honesty and transparency. So prove it. Will he back a parliamentary inquiry?
First Minister.
No, I won't back a parliamentary inquiry on this issue. And the reason why I won't back a parliamentary inquiry is that we've just had a police investigation which has gone on for 5 years. And that police investigation has identified criminality as the source of this particular issue, and that has now been remedied in the courts. So I don't think there is anything a parliamentary inquiry can add to a 5-year forensic police investigation that has resulted in the successful prosecution of an individual and his guilty plea. So what I would rather do is concentrate on the priorities of the people of Scotland, as I always do, whether that's reducing waiting times in our hospitals, or providing the support to first-time buyers, or making sure we expand early learning and childcare. That's what I'm going to do, because I'm a First Minister on Scotland's side.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, a parliamentary inquiry is not to look into the criminality. That's, of course, for the police. This inquiry is to look at the culture, the process of decision-making and lessons for the future. It's to answer the many questions that the public have. That requires light and transparency, not the usual John Swinney and SNP playbook to shut down or deflect, because we've seen the dangerous outcomes of this culture. Victims who reported the abuse by Patrick Grady threatened with legal and disciplinary action. SNP officials bullied and forced out by a First Minister for trying to reveal Murrell's crimes. Female MSPs bugged by SNP staff and then ignored by party leaders. 7 North Lanarkshire councillors forced out of the party for raising concerns about paedophile Jordan Linden. A culture that puts victims last as if they're a threat to the cause. So he has a choice. Will he back a parliamentary inquiry, or will he double down on protecting a culture that he helped build that enabled a man he appointed to embezzle more than £400,000?
First Minister.
That was an astonishing attempt at victim blaming by Anas Sarwar, and he should be ashamed of himself in what he said. There is one person and one person alone who is responsible for the embezzlement of my party's funds, and that's Peter Murrell. And when I became leader of the SNP, I promised to my party that the party would have open dialogue and debate and scrutiny within our party, and that is precisely what I have delivered to the SNP. Just one of the many promises I gave to the SNP and to the people of Scotland. I also promised that I would unite my party, and I succeeded in uniting my party, which is why there's 58 of us over here and there's 17 of them over there. And my last word to Mr Sarwar on this subject is I would gently say to him, people in glass houses should not throw stones, because he knows that the Labour Party is up to its neck in difficulty, whether it's about live criminal cases that involve former members of this Parliament, or whether it's Peter Mandelson and his influence over the Labour government. Anas Sarwar hasn't got a leg to stand on in taking me to task on these issues.
The Peter Murrell scandal isn't just about the SNP's toxic internal culture. This goes to the heart of government and Scotland's justice system. John Swinney and Nicola Sturgeon didn't stop Peter Murrell, they enabled him. Sturgeon warned SNP members to stop asking difficult questions, and John Swinney assured everyone that the SNP's finances were sound. Their shield of protection gave Murrell a licence to steal, and people want to know why Nicola Sturgeon wasn't in the dock beside her husband. So will John Swinney back our calls for the Lord Advocate to publish all information relating to this case?
First Minister.
Mr Findlay is an experienced parliamentarian and also an experienced journalist who's looked at many issues of criminality. And over his career, and of course this was pointed out by the Crown Office to Mr Findlay yesterday, the Crown does not disclose the rationale for them taking decisions other than where they pursue prosecutions against individuals. And of course the Crown has undertaken a successful prosecution here, and I pay tribute to the Crown Office and Police Scotland. The Crown also made clear to Mr Findlay yesterday that the Lord Advocate had no involvement, nor did the Solicitor General, who are the law officers in this case, because they never have an involvement in cases involving political figures, because that is all undertaken by independent counsel and experienced Crown counsel within the Crown Office. So what that assurance that was given by the Crown to Mr Findlay yesterday is designed to do is to explain that the highest standards have been applied to a deep and forensic criminal investigation which resulted in the prosecution of one person and one person alone. And if Mr Findlay had a shred of decency about him, he would express his respect for the judicial system in Scotland, his respect for the justice system in Scotland, and leave the professional officers of our police service and our professional prosecutors to do their job, which is exactly what they've done.
Russell Findlay.
Usual desperate deflection from John Swinney. He's trying to shut down scrutiny, and we won't stand for it. John Swinney says that the SNP is the victim, although there are new reports that taxpayers' money was also stolen. So if the SNP are the victim, did they exercise their right in law to seek a review of the Crown Office's prosecution decision? And will John Swinney now follow the money which bought a camper van, Mont Blanc pens, a home library? Is he taking legal action to force Peter Murrell to pay compensation? Or has John Swinney asked the Crown Office to use proceeds of crime laws to recover luxury stolen goods from Peter Murrell and Nicola Sturgeon?
First Minister.
If there's anything desperate about all of this, it's the desperation of a man who has led the Conservative Party into oblivion, asking me questions about this issue today, because that is what Russell Findlay is doing today. Now, as a matter
Let the First Minister answer, please.
As a matter of fact, in court on Monday, the Advocate Depute made a verbal motion for confiscation in terms of Section 92 of the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002, and a decision on this matter will ultimately be for the court to make. And given that, as the presiding officer told us on Tuesday, there remain live proceedings until sentence, I am unable to say any more beyond that. The second point I will make is in relation to the suggestion that there was public money involved in all of this. The only issue that could apply there is in relation to a policy development grant from the Electoral Commission. But I want to reassure Parliament that in order to receive funding, a party needs to apply to the Electoral Commission outlining the work that will be done in the forthcoming year and submit an audited report to the Electoral Commission outlining what grant funding has been spent upon, and it's only on receipt of the audited report that the final payment of the grant is made by the Electoral Commission. So that confirms the point that I made to Parliament on Tuesday, that this is SNP supporters' money that has been embezzled and not public money. And the last thing I'll say to Russell Findlay is this. The Scottish National Party is a party that has been affected by the loss of the resources as a result of this case. But what the Scottish National Party can rely on now is the most effective arrangements in place to guarantee the resources that we use, which we use to maximum effect. And we used them to maximum effect on the 7th of May, when the SNP won 58 seats in this Parliament and the Conservatives were reduced to a hopeless rump of 12 of them over there. They may grin all they like, but those of us who, for the 7th time in a row in this Parliament, successfully got rid of the Conservatives, the people of Scotland can breathe a sigh of relief that they're over there redundant as a consequence of the election.